Mr. Peter Bradshaw from the Guardian.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming. Ladies and gentlemen, the word legendary is overused these days, but I think I'm allowed to use it right now. What a treat to see that movie again. For me, it's the second time I've seen it, and it's so wonderful to meet you guys live and in person. I'm kind of overwhelmed. Can I just say, first of all, what strikes me first of all is the enormous and natural creativity and musicianship and compositional flair that seems to flow so naturally from you guys, and particularly the harmonies. I mean, those harmonies, my goodness, they are sublime and experimental and wonderful. And I mean, listening to them, I thought, surely these guys have studied it 10 years at the Juilliard to be able to do this, but you did it naturally. How did those harmonies come along? Did you just, did it happen by magic, or do you sit down and did it take a long time? How did it work? I'm speaking, as you can hear, as an amateur who doesn't understand how composition happens.
Well, we were all self-taught.
Right.
We loved all sorts of music, really, from the very beginning. You know, and as the film so beautifully represents, we would always, I don't know, nothing was ever consciously written or put together. It always did flow naturally.
Yes.
Really, very naturally. And we used to always rehearse the harmonies around my mum's place.
Well, it was harmonies down to you, because you were basically the man that knew your harmonies. You'd been in the St Albans choir, so you picked, and we all love classical music, so it primarily down to you.
Yeah, I mean, Rod was in the cathedral choir for 8 or 9 years, and apart from being a wonderful keyboard player, his knowledge of harmony is extensive, you know, and all the harmonies really come from Rod. And we had a very funny way of doing our harmonies as well. If I could just share with you that I was a completely undisciplined musician and vocalist. I didn't really know what I was doing. And so Rod would say to me, listen, you sing what you think is the melody. And having a high voice, I would often, especially on the chorus, I would often take the high harmony. I didn't know I was doing it, but that's what I do. So we say, right, that's what's natural to you. Let's sing that a few times and set that in your mind. So that's what we did. And then he would say to Chris, he'd try and give him a fairly simple harmony, because Chris is going to play bass as well as sing a harmony.
That was my excuse.
Yes. And then when we set that, it would often leave an almost impossible harmony for Rod to fill all the holes because of the way we were singing our harmonies. Right. But he's a really good harmony singer, and that's why our harmonies are hard to replicate, because it's not someone singing the melody and someone singing above and someone singing below. The harmonies are going all over the place.
Oh, it's amazing. Sorry, Hugh.
May I just say that more than that, Rod himself, bless his heart, is the consummate musician. And as Colin just said, we came in fairly in an amateur type of way, not knowing a great deal, certainly about music. Rod said to me one day in the studio, he said, Hugh, he said, can you put a triplet in there? And I went, what? Happily, I do not know what one is now.
No, yeah, exactly. But, Colin, I was going to ask you, if I talk about your own lead vocals, what strikes me now is that amazing, this doesn't sound too pretentious, that plangent quality, the vulnerable quality of your voice. When you first heard yourself singing, did you think, oh wow, that sounds like a lead singer. That sounds like a lead singer in a band. I can work with that voice. Or did it come gradually? What you realised that you had?
Well, I think Chris hit the nail on the head in the film. He said, "I've never thought I've really got a particularly good voice at all. I've never thought like that." And so much of this has just happened by chance. I joined the band. We sat in alphabetical order at school. My name is Blunstone. I sat one behind Arnold, who was the original bass player.
Right.
If we hadn't been in alphabetical order, I would have never been in a band in the first place. But on top of that, I joined to be a guitarist. I had no idea I could sing. It was only as it was in the film. I just sang a little bit at the end of the first rehearsal, and Rod said to me, "Okay, you be lead singer, and I'll play keyboards." It's just so much chance. So,
Yes.
no, I never really judged myself as a singer. I think I'm a trier.
Oh, well.
I do have a good try.
Very
Oh,
try.
well, it doesn't sound like you are trying. I mean, it sounds so natural. I mean, it doesn't sound like you're trying at all.
Thank
My
you.
goodness.
Thank you
And Hugh, what was it like playing drums?
Sorry, just quickly, this man puts in the most hard work before he sings, because he will always warm up. And that's probably about a half an hour's job, and I think that shows in the way you sing, and sing now in the same keys. Well done.
Thank
Well,
you.
it's marvelous.
Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, what was it like playing drums? You're providing the kind of rhythmic backbone to the band. I mean, was that challenging? Did you do a lot of rehearsal before?
Yes, lots of rehearsal, lots of practicing at home,
Yes.
and mostly listening to other players. I used to go out a lot and listen to any band I could see that was at the local or wherever it's Dormans, Hatfield, etc. Down the jazz club was my favourite,
Right.
and I just watched the drummer intently.
Did you have any favourite drummers of those jazz drummers or rock drummers of those?
Well, the jazz was interesting, and it did, I think, lend me a quality that I perhaps have. But I mean, I think it was more the rock and roll drummers and the bands that were playing heavier sort of stuff. So I watched them intently, and if I would pick up like one little item that he played from one drummer, and I perhaps try it, one little item from one other, and from there your style grows, you know.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, I mean, you're associated obviously with the British invasion, but also psychedelia, and all of the subversion and the tastiness, if I can put it that way, that comes with psychedelia. I mean, we listen to Time of the Season, and it's a transcendent and it's a sublime song in a way, but it's also, dare I say it, a kind of a sexy song, and a kind of, you know, I'm sitting there, I'm listening to these lyrics, and I'm thinking, well, people say, you know, the young people want trigger warnings. I think I need a trigger warning when I sit down. So I was thinking, who's your daddy? Is he rich like me? I'm thinking, okay, this is a very, very kind of, you know, this is not a song for prudes. This is not a song for featherweight, you know, people who are going to be fainting on the couches. Tell me more about how those lyrics came about.
Well, those lyrics are, they actually have several meanings at once.
Right.
What's your name, who's your daddy? I always loved Summertime. I remember winning a piano competition when I was about 15 at Butlins or somewhere, and I couldn't go back actually to go into finals. I did a version of Summertime that had rock and roll in it. It had jazz in it. I mean, I played the Summertime song as in a very straight way as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I had a stroke a few months ago, so
Right.
so
Yeah, okay.
not to worry, I can't quite get the words out.
Yeah.
In one way, it's a little bit like looking back to the Summertime lyrics. Your daddy's rich and your mama's good looking.
Right.
You know,
Yeah. Yes.
but
That's
it's
it.
a
Yes.
little bit of that.
Yes.
But also, it was very much the time of the sort of hip time of peace and love. And while we were never completely naive and weren't really sort of taken completely away with that, it was a very, very strong movement. And it did lead people to changed the world in a way. For the very first time, people could see what was happening in the war.
Yes.
All that was in my mind. And it was a little bit like, I had the double meaning of, is he rich like me? Has he taken any time to show you what you need to live?
Right.
And it's like, just not material
Yes.
richness,
Yes.
but it's
spiritual riches.
Spiritual riches,
Yes. Yes.
so all those things were coming together.
Yes.
But in America, they did tell me that that's that first time they could find that phrase, and especially in sports, and it became very much a black phrase in speech. You know.
Yes.
Yeah, so it has multiple meanings really.
Right. Right. Can I ask? I'm sorry if this is a vulgar question, but on the subject of psychedelia, were any of you chaps tempted to experiment with drugs in those days?
We broke up
Yeah.
just in 1967,
Yes.
just when the Beatles' dentist had slipped
Yes. Yes.
some LSD into, and so we were off the road all around that time.
Yeah.
So it sort of saved us, from drugs.
Right.
And I mean, Brian Wilson, that you saw
Yes.
in the picture, you
Yes.
know, unfortunately, I mean, he was a wonderful musician, and he
Yes,
was,
always.
very badly, affected by it.
Right. No, I did wonder.
I think we just missed all that, to be honest.
You just,
To be
well,
honest, yeah.
maybe
I
you
mean, the
were
band
back.
actually finished in 1967.
Yeah.
And I think we were about 6 months out from all of that. We were more pints of bitter men. Really.
Well, I was going to say
Right.
that I grew up near
Yeah.
St Albans. I actually got married in St Albans, so
Really?
so I feel I have a connection with, because I wonder if you agree with me, but watching you on screen and hearing the music, I find it's a very English kind of
Yes.
music, really, even though it imbibes and inhales, of course it imbibes American music and jazz and blues, but there's something that I hear when I listen to, let us say, early Pink Floyd or Nick Drake or the Zombies. You guys were wonderfully successful because you embodied so clearly a kind of, and I say this, I don't just mean Britishness in a way, I mean Englishness. There's something intensely English about your music.
Strange enough, Paul Weller always says that.
Yeah.
And he's become a real friend and a real
Right.
supporter. And it amazed me that the complete sort of time of punk, etc., and all the jazz stuff that he was doing.
Yeah.
It was his favourite album.
Yeah.
And he always has played it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Chris, I wanted to talk to you about that marvellous line that you had in the movie, that you realised that you were famous in your 20s, 50 years after the event. I mean, it's an amazing thought. It reminded me, I think, of something George Harrison said after the Beatles broke up, and he said, if I'd have known that I was in the Beatles, I would have paid more attention to what we were doing. That when you're in the middle of the maelstrom of it, I mean, as I say, you would know, I would. You kind of don't realise what's happening.
No,
That
you don't.
other people can see it, and you can't see it.
No, it's true, and it's very important, as I said to young kids today, write your own song, work on your whole thing.
Yes.
We went through some hard times financially. Rod and I, as writers, managed to survive, but it was a
Yes.
difficult time, you know.
Well,
Everybody else was making the money.
well, I know. I mean, that must have been pretty annoying if you think that other people are getting the cash that really belongs to you.
But we stayed friends and we enjoyed working.
That's the
and
important
writing and
thing,
singing,
yes.
we enjoyed it.
I mean, that's the miracle. Part of the miracle of the Zombies is that it's a lesson in humanity. It's not just a lesson in music; it's a lesson in humanity.
And we still talk to each other.
Yes, I know. That's fine.
And humility, I think, because I said to Chris, my dear friend here, rock star. No, I don't think I'm a rock star, as you saw me say. But he said, no, wait a minute. He said, don't ever forget, you are a legend. Really? Never heard that one before.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to bring in questioners from the audience because I think some people might have some thoughts on their mind and I want to ask the band. Do we have any, if you could raise a hand if you had any questions? Yes, I think a question there. Can we get a microphone there or is it just a question of... I think
shout.
I'll have your question if you
Just shout.
If you just shout.
Okay. So I guess about 15 years ago, I watched a documentary which was about Summertime, the song, and they said it was the most recorded song ever, and that they did a public vote, and in the public vote, the Zombies version was voted the best version of Summertime, and I just wondered whether you knew that.
I didn't know it was voted by the audience as
It was a public vote.
yeah. I mean, I remember the movie about the documentary about the song, and we were really knocked out that they used our song, our version. I'm so sorry, our version as the signature tune and the one that encapsulated what they felt about it, you know. And that was, it's been with us right from the start, that song, hasn't it?
Yes, and I used to play it as well when we got together.
They showed it in an extract in the film, and it's actually taken on either our first or our second Ready Steady Go. I don't know if you remember Ready Steady Go.
But I didn't see that.
And of course, it being our first or second TV appearance, I was really quite nervous performing Summertime. And just to add to my agony, I hate heights. And they asked me, you see that step ladder over there? Would you mind going up the top of that ladder and sing Summertime from up there? So if I looked a bit concerned when I was performing it, I was singing the song on TV.
We would have called you.
We
would have called you.
Yes. And the audience is all moving around, it's live, and they're all moving around and rattling this ladder while I'm right up in the air. So I'll always remember that song. I remember that TV program we were talking about as well.
I wonder if part of its success, mostly Summertime was played in 4/4, but we chose to do it in 3/4, which was pretty much unheard of then, and I think that made the difference.
That's interesting. I didn't know
It's a
that.
beautiful version.
Yeah, that's
Thank
very
you.
interesting.
On the first album? Or
Well, it's from the first session. I'm never quite sure because the American album had a different tunes on, and the English album had different tunes on. But Summertime was in the first session. I think we recorded either 4 or 5 songs in one evening. She's Not There, You Make Me Feel Good, Summertime, It's All Right With Me.
Oh, she's not there.
And She's Not There. Yeah. So
it's on the American version?
I close recordings.
I can't remember what album it's on. And also the other thing was that often in those days, especially in the UK, they didn't put the hit single on the album. They wanted you to buy the single, they wanted you to buy the album, and they felt that was the best way to do it. So it got very confusing what tracks ended up on what albums. So I'm sorry, I can't answer your question.
The album was very much an afterthought, you know, the albums were very much an afterthought to the hit single. And we were given literally, 2 weeks to come up with songs on that album, and we hadn't really written very much, and we wrote some other things very quickly. But they put an EP out first. Now, am I right in saying that, Chris?
I think so, yes, definitely.
Yeah, we put an EP out with Summertime on it, but it was definitely one of the first tracks we ever recorded.
It just strikes me, it's really interesting, if I can just tell you a little secret while we're all here together. We're talking
As you want.
we're talking about things that happened 60 years ago. Mostly we can't remember. And when we do remember, we all remember differently. And it gets really confusing. I hear people telling a story, and I remember this really well, and it happened like this, and I think, I don't remember it like that at all. So it is, these things happened 60-something years ago. It's a long time.
It's a long time, but it feels like yesterday, of course.
Some ways. Some ways.
Are there any other? Yes, I think. Yes, sir. Yes, you were. Wait. Yes, please go ahead.
I mean, you had a hit straight off. Do you think if you had a canon of work before you had that first hit, you might have worked as a band a lot longer?
I think it would have made a huge difference actually, because Rod and Chris had only just discovered that they could write wonderful songs, but they didn't have a back catalogue. So when She's Not There was a hit, and Decca Records are straight away saying we want a follow-up, they didn't really have any more songs. So
Like Lennon and McCartney had already had a...
yes, and of course the other thing is they worked extensively as a professional or even semi-professional band. We hadn't, we were amateurs, and so we suddenly had a big hit record. 2 weeks before we'd been playing in a working man's club in St Albans for £5, and it was a big step. And I think obviously you must accept with gratitude any success that you get, of course, but in a perfect world, it perhaps might have been to our advantage if things had happened a slightly different way. I would have liked us to have played all the London clubs, the Marquee, Eel Pie Island, Klug's Creek, and to learn our craft a bit before we had a hit record. But life's not like that, is it? You have to accept how it works out.
Are you working on an album? Are you working on material right now? Or are you
Well, Rod started writing some songs. I mean, it's widely reported Rod said he's not going to tour anymore, but
right?
he is writing. He's got a wonderful studio, and it would be great to record some more tracks, of course.
Right. Yeah, and you're not. Would other members of the band perform, or is that, or you were just concentrating on recording material now or composing?
Well, I am, but
yes.
I think for Rod, yes.
Right.
I'm still writing as well, working with my wife and doing other recordings, but we're not doing anything together.
No.
I tour all the time because I'm mad.
As a drummer, I am available.
You're available, yeah. Well, probably can all go to Minorca and hang out in Minorca.
Yes,
It does look idyllic. It does look marvellous.
It really
It does
is.
look absolutely marvellous. I think we've got time for one more question. Yes, sorry.
I'd love to ask you about the British invasion. There's a brilliant moment in the film where you're slightly embarrassed that you're taking Black American music back to America, and I wondered what that felt like. How do you understand that moment? The British invasion was so important for the future of music. What happened next?
Well,
what was that like?
we were so scared because, as I think Colin said, we were 19 or 18 or 19. We had a #1 in America, and we were playing with some of these black artists that were really heroes of ours, actually. Benny King, the Drifters, all these people, and we thought that they're going to hate us, because they're going to see us as I don't know, taking over their music and just doing a version of it which is, not that good. But we didn't realise that having gone through the filter of Englishness, we had a very different take on it, and they really did become friends of ours very much. And the bit in the movie where it says about Aretha Franklin, she was completely unknown at the time, and we were, and Patti LaBelle, came into our dressing room. She used to play some awful jokes on us. And Colin, what did she pretend to do one night?
Well, one of them just fell on the floor as if she was dying.
Yeah.
I gave her what she called mouth to mouth.
Oh, did you?
I thought of it at the time. But yeah, they certainly did that. There were many. It was a great time actually. It being over Christmas, people were in and out London.
But they did love us.
Yeah.
Once we sang, they completely accepted us, and that felt really wonderful. And they drew us into the world, as Hugh said at the time. when Colin and I decided to sing If I Fell, and we thought, oh my God, we just didn't know what to do. And we thought, how can we get to the end of this? So we must do something in harmony. So we just sang that from beginning to end. And at the end of it, they completely accepted us and absolutely loved us, you know. And then we used to, I always used to play piano for them on their, when we get to a gig early, they would start, you know, singing and everything. And it just really took us into that world, and it was wonderful.
Yeah, I played the bass once, and the black artist said, "Man, you're really funky." Didn't know what that meant. Thought I smelled or something.
In trouble with the phrase, it reached St Albans by then. I mean,
The drummer from the house band called me one day, and he said, "Man," he said, "I love your bass drum work." Good accent, wasn't it? Anyway, and I said, "Excuse me, but I learned everything I've learned from you."
But Hugh, when we did that first rehearsal, you'd never played a bass drum in your life, had you? Excuse me. But Jim Moffat, showed Hugh how to play the very first basic drum rhythm, which Hugh incredibly picked up in just amazingly quickly.
right.
And we were, you know, playing basic funky things by the end of the rehearsal, and it all felt very easy. And these were 4 or 5 guys that had never ever met each other before, or you know, we met some of them, but
Yeah.
I'd never seen Colin.
No.
I didn't know that he could play. And when he first played the guitar, he kept getting it wrong. On was it Golden Earring?
I can't believe that.
Yeah.
I'm soon retired as a guitarist. It wasn't going to be. But if I could just say to the chap who's talking about the British invasion, it's a hugely important thing in society in America. It's not just music. It's a very important thing, and the irony is that certainly myself, I wasn't aware that we were part of, they call it the first wave of the British invasion. I always felt we were really involved in what we were doing. We weren't particularly competing with other bands. That's another thing people ask us. You know, we were so involved in what we were doing, I wasn't really aware of this wider thing that was going on. But if you go to America now and talk about the British invasion, it's a really important part of their history. And it was, looking back, it was a wonderful thing to be there.
It also increased their work as well. They told us, didn't they, that the British invasion reactivated all their music.
Yeah, sure.
There was one extraordinary thing, and that was, in those days, the audiences were, we used to get many black people in our audience. It was about half and half in the Brooklyn Fox, wasn't it?
Yes.
And, you know, when we did the Mario Kay show. And then, and you know, when we were just walking along the street, you know, maybe a very pretty black girl from over the place said, "Hey man, you look really cool," you know. And all this was going on. And then Martin Luther King was killed. And after that moment, the audience, the black audience, just completely fell away. And the two musics went separately,
Right.
went their own way.
That's interesting,
You know,
isn't it?
Not from a performance point of view, but from an audience point of view.
Right.
And and I always, you know, even to this day, you know, it's never completely in America. It's never completely. I can't think of the word.
Yeah, reintegrated, I suppose.
Reintegrated.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's interesting. I think we've got time for one more, do you think? One more. Is it? Yes, hello.
Hi. Guys, I could literally watch that documentary over and over more. Like if you had a radio show, you guys are funny as well. But my question was, being on your kind of music and thinking about that, were you guys ever considered to go on the Lee Dorsey show?
The
Lee Dorsey show.
Lee Dorsey show.
Yeah, that was big in the 60s, wasn't it? With
Do you
your
know,
music.
I don't remember that.
No, I know the name.
I can assure you, we would have got, if we'd been asked to go on any television show, anything, we would have read the news, whatever. We would have done it.
Working in a coal mine.
Yeah, well,
That as well. Oh, yeah.
Sorry, did you want to say something?
Yeah, it's not a question, but Buddy Owen at Crickets was signed to play in New York, and the guys thought they were black.
That's right. Yeah.
that's interesting,
What's,
isn't it?
what's
Yes.
important is the music.
Music.
And
Yes.
that's-
Yeah,
very, very.
That's,
I will forever be grateful to you for that.
well,
Thank you.
thank you very much. That is an outstanding sentiment to end